What's up guys, and welcome back to another round of the 2019 F1 modded career mode, back today for round number 9 at the Austrian Grand Prix, a track which I'm actually quite fond of, to be fair, here at the Red Bull Ring. And I just want to start off this episode by saying a massive thank you for 10,000 subscribers. It's just unreal. Couldn't have imagined when I started this series that we'd be hitting 10,000 so quickly. But here we are, and a massive thanks to you guys. Before we get into today's race, if you could leave a like down below, that would be massively appreciated. If we could hit 150 likes, as usual, that would be grand. But yeah, getting into today's race, you can see, once again, no performance upgrades this time. Just a gearbox wear reduction upgrade, which is alright. I guess it should help us sometime down the line. But yeah, the big upgrades are in the next couple of rounds at Silverstone and Hockenheim, where we've got a big powertrain and big aerodynamics upgrades, which should see us shoot up the ladder. So yeah, the performance chart, we've been very stagnant recently. Haven't had an upgrade since Canada. So yeah, 2 races without a performance upgrade means we're slightly losing touch with the top 3. But yeah, quite a long way ahead of Haas, meaning we're a little bit in no man's land at the moment. Now, the bigger issue for this race wasn't the lack of upgrades, it was the lack of engines that we've got, because as you can see, we've pretty much knackered 2 engines already so far this season. Our first engine is on 80% and second on 67%. And around a circuit like Austria, you really can't take a chance on going for a worn power unit. So we've already taken our 3rd power unit of the season, and we're only in round 9. All in all though, I'm really excited for this Grand Prix. Hopefully you guys are too. And without further ado now, let's get into the grid for this Austrian Grand Prix. So at the Red Bull Ring, it was a Red Bull man on top on Saturday. A wet qualifying meant that Pierre Gasly could take advantage and put it on pole ahead of Lewis Hamilton by a half a second as well, with Hamilton's teammate Bottas lining up alongside Vettel on row 2. Then in behind them, we've got Lance Stroll in the Racing Point car alongside the 2nd Red Bull of Max Verstappen. Carlos Sainz and Daniel Ricciardo both managed to get ahead of us. We're in 9th, but we're still ahead of Charles Leclerc and the other Racing Point of Sergio Perez. So all in all, the wet conditions brought carnage in qualifying. Don't really know how to explain what happened, but all I can say is it's promising to be a very exciting race. We've got a mixed up grid. What more can you ask for this Austrian Grand Prix? Let's get into the action. Onto the formation lap we go then, and we'll take a quick look at what the driver's standings are saying in the bottom right corner. So we moved ahead of Kevin Magnussen last time out to take P6. And it's only Verstappen and then the 2 Ferraris and 2 Mercedes ahead of us in the standings. It's going to be difficult to stay there, of course. We've got Gasly on pole position. So he'll surely be jumping us in the driver's standings if it stays as it is. But now you can see all the cars lined up on the grid, ready for the 5 red lights here in Spielberg. 5 lights are on, and away we go here at the Red Bull Ring. It's a relatively good start for ourselves, especially compared to our teammate. We're going to be side by side into turn 1, although on our outside is Sergio Perez. He's had a brilliant start from 11th place. He's got past us at turn 1. A brilliant battle for the lead going on as well. But Perez up from 11th place, ahead of ourselves, ahead of Leclerc, and ahead of Daniel Ricciardo into P8. We are still, well, inside the top 10 just about, but we have got Charles Leclerc on our outside as we've got yellow flags in behind. Not quite sure what's gone on there, but we're not even challenging our teammate for P9. We're looking behind us once again in those mirrors. Charles Leclerc diving all over the place, but can't quite make a move there down in to turn 4, as now we go through the 2nd right-hander in succession at turn 5. And now we've got Leclerc going down the inside of us at the end of lap 1 in this middle section of track, and he's got ahead of us, and we are outside of the top 10 despite qualifying in 9th. By the end of lap 1 we are in P11. Now we've got Robert Kubica behind us in the Williams, so not an ideal start to this race, but this track very much slipstream orientated, I think you can say. So just so long as we manage to stay behind Leclerc and stay within that 1 second, as soon as DRS is active on lap 3, I'm sure we will get a chance. But now taking a look at the replay of the start at the front, Gasly didn't get away too badly. But it was a very good start from Lewis Hamilton, who challenged him into turn 1. And this is where the Honda engine really started to get exposed. The pull of that Mercedes engine is unreal. And also Valtteri Bottas, you can see Hamilton got past Gasly easily. But Bottas, on the second half of that straight, just showed some unreal pace. But Gasly through the corner at turn 3 managed to just about hold on. And then there they are side by side on the run to Gersa at turn 4. And once again, Bottas putting it down the inside. But this is probably the strongest section of track for the Red Bull. And Gasly just could not do anything to stop a Mercedes 1-2 by the end of lap 1. But going quite a way back in the order now, we are still in P11 on lap 3 of this Grand Prix. But like I said, we stayed within DRS range, and sure enough, that gave us an opportunity to go down the inside of Leclerc here on lap 3. So turn 3 is looking very much like an opportunity to get an overtaking move done, especially as we now have a DRS zone in at that location of the track. We now break into turn 4, and just going to have to stick behind Leclerc for the meantime. But just look at that pack. It goes all the way up to, I believe, Pierre Gasly. So Gasly's been overtaken by, I believe that's Sebastian Vettel. And everybody is pretty much stuck behind him, which is very interesting. And we're here on lap 4, so just one lap later, and nothing has really changed, except for the fact that it is now Lance Stroll leading the pack. So he's obviously showing some real pace in that Racing Point car in the opening stages of this race. But now you can see his teammate Sergio Perez coming under fire from he's putting Carlos Sainz under pressure. So Perez, who started in P11, is all the way up in P7 now, I believe. But there were pretty much 5 of us going into turn 1, almost, you know, in unison. But we get ahead of Carlos Sainz, who started off lap 4 in P7. And he is now down in P11. But we're not done there. Are we going to be able to get another move done as Ricciardo and Perez are going at it? It's just relentless action in this Grand Prix on lap 5. We get a brilliant exit off turn 3. So are we going to be able to challenge Charles Leclerc down the inside into turn 4? No, we're just behind him at the moment. And unless we go for an audacious dive, which we do, and we're possibly going to be able to get ahead of Leclerc. Yes, we do. Brilliant stuff from ourselves there. Didn't expect us to be so late on the brakes into turn 4, but we've managed to do it. And as we go into the middle section of this track now, we've got to concentrate on staying ahead of Leclerc. Of course, that Ferrari will be aerodynamically very stable in this middle sector, but we're showing that the Renault isn't half bad as well. But Perez in the Racing Point car, he's going down the inside of our teammate now. They've been battling for the whole of lap 5, and Perez just about prevails and gets back the P7 that he gained just a lap or so ago. And now you've got Leclerc on the outside, who's going for a move on our teammates, Daniel Ricciardo as well. Leclerc and Ricciardo almost side by side, with Carlos Sainz trying to get back in on the action. And this is relentless in this Austrian Grand Prix. So many opportunities to overtake around this Red Bull ring. But now we go on the run to the hairpin, and Ricciardo and Leclerc look a little bit preoccupied with their own battle, that we've managed to sneak back ahead of Leclerc at the start of lap 6. And we've now got the DRS active, but so is our teammate Daniel Ricciardo. And are we going to be able to go down the inside? No, we're not. We nearly catch our front wing on our teammate. That would have been controversial, but we're going to stick behind him. And I think we're in P9. There's been so much going on, I'm not even 100% sure what position we're in, but I'm pretty sure it is P9 for the meantime, with Ricciardo and Perez very much in pouncing distance. I think it's fair to say we'll at least be able to try and make a move on Daniel Ricciardo on the next lap, lap 7. Everybody on the super soft tyres by the looks of it, apart from the Force India, sorry, the Racing Point cars, because Perez, I'm pretty sure, is on the ultra softs. But enough of that, and now we're going back to the battle between ourselves and Daniel Ricciardo, trying to take a little bit of a trying to get as good an exit as possible off turn 1, and it looks as if it's sort of paid off. Although we've got Leclerc trying to get in on the action once again. We do, though, manage to get ahead of our teammate. We're going to take a wide line and give him as much room as he wants, but we have got ahead of Daniel Ricciardo on lap 7 of this Grand Prix, and he's also been overtaken by Charles Leclerc, despite Ricciardo having DRS. So pretty good from the Ferrari man there Although it's been it was a dismal qualifying, let's not lie, for Charles Leclerc. He's got to do a big recovery drive today. And now we are the man standing between him and P8 in this Austrian Grand Prix. So staying on board with Leclerc, you can see he's not really gaining on us in that middle sector. The Renault, the developments that we've made on this car mean that it is pretty aerodynamically stable in that middle sector. You can see there as well, in the final couple of corners, turn 9 and 10, we only need to really turn the wheel in once, and the car is very much sticking. So we're 7 laps into this Grand Prix, and I dread to think how many overtakes we've seen so far. And you can see up ahead, there's just constant battling. I don't even know what to say. We haven't cut away once since lap 3 or lap 4. Just unreal. And you can see there, just further up ahead, that is Lance Stroll, who has been overtaken by Pierre Gasly by the looks of it. And we get dive bombed by Charles Leclerc. So we were focusing on that battle up ahead. And then all of a sudden, we get Leclerc go down the inside of us. But it looks as if Pierre Gasly is currently leading the train up ahead. So he's sat in P4, just ahead of Lance Stroll. And then it goes all the way back to Daniel Ricciardo in P10. So we've got 7 cars in this train, any of which I think have the possibility of getting all the way up into 4th place. But Gasly's now put a little bit of breathing space between himself and Lance Stroll. And Stroll is now coming under pressure from the other Ferrari of Sebastian Vettel. So in fact, the train goes all the way up to P3 because Vettel's had a poor couple of laps. He must have been overtaken by both Gasly and Lance Stroll. But regardless of that, it looks as if Gasly's now in P3, and despite Lance Stroll having a brilliant start to this race, he is now going backwards. He's been overtaken by Max Verstappen. He's now down into P6, and he's going to be challenged by his teammate now going up into turn 3. Is Perez going to try and pull a move on him? He's going to try and go around the outside, is the Mexican driver, but he's going to have to stick behind for the meantime. He will have the DRS though, and you can see there Perez on the outside of the track has got the move done on his Canadian teammate Lance Stroll. And a bad lap goes even worse for Stroll. He is down from P4 to P7 in the matter of, well, what, a lap. So, yeah, not great for Stroll. And next up behind him is the small matter of a Ferrari of Charles Leclerc. But we're just waiting to pounce as soon as we can on lap 9 of this Grand Prix. It's been an enthralling first 9 laps of the Grand Prix. Hopefully you guys are enjoying this race. I most certainly am. And as we come through the final corner, once again getting DRS. It's pretty much constant DRS on this circuit, or at least it feels like it. It's a sub 1 minute 10 lap, and you get DRS 3 times. So I think that says all you need to know. Here is one of the DRS zones, and you'd imagine Leclerc will be looking to make a move on Lance Stroll into turn 3. Is he going to go to the inside? No, Stroll has gone defensive. In fact, he's trying to go down the inside of his teammate, Sergio Perez, once again. So Stroll has found a second wind very much here, as we are just sort of sitting back and watching what is unfolding at the moment. Unfortunately, we can't really run even standard mix in this Grand Prix. You can see we're switching to lean quite a lot, because we just seem to be leaking fuel. You can see when we go standard, we're losing fuel. So in the middle sector, I was finding that even over the first 10 laps, and it will continue for the final 26, we have to run lean mix in that middle sector just to get to the end of this Grand Prix, which is bizarre. But still, it doesn't seem to be hindering us too much. We're very much hanging on to the tail of the cars ahead as Charles Leclerc goes down the inside of Sergio Perez. So this time it's a bad lap for Perez, who's lost 2 positions, first to his teammate and now to Charles Leclerc. But Perez and Leclerc are going to be pretty much side by side going into turn 1. Leclerc will have the inside line. It looks as if he's just tried to block off Perez on the outside. Meanwhile, we're just the rear gunner almost at the moment, just waiting for carnage to unfold up ahead. Leclerc and Perez still side by side on the run up to turn 3, but Leclerc has just about prevailed, and now we are trying to go into overtake mode, and we've got the DRS, but we just don't seem to be closing in because we can't even run standard mix But still, we're going for a move on Perez, who really seemed to get a tank slapper on the exit of turn 4. We've taken advantage of that, although he is still there on the inside of us in this middle sector. And as we now go through turn 6, Perez still on our inside. We're going side by side in this middle sector, which you wouldn't think was even possible. But as we now go through turn 7 and 8, it looks as if Perez is just about going to get ahead for the meantime. We'll sicken his slipstream and try and get DRS on him. But still, we've barely cut away from this race once, which is, it's pretty incredible. We're on lap 11 of the Grand Prix, about to start lap 12, and it has been relentless action so far. But as we go to the outside of the track now, we're going to brake early and try and get the switch back on Sergio Perez. We sort of do. We get in his slipstream, but we couldn't quite get the full switch back, and now we are side by side running through the left kink of turn 2 and into the hairpin right of turn 3. Here we go, down the inside of Sergio Perez, up into P8, the best position we've had all Grand Prix. And we are only looking forward at the moment. We are currently in lean mix. Are we going to have enough to just about stay ahead of Perez? Yes, we are. So trying to save as much fuel as we can, because it is it's not in abundance, I think it's fair to say. Meanwhile, up ahead, we've got Leclerc and Stroll still battling on lap 13 of the Grand Prix. We're approaching the pit phase now in this Austrian Grand Prix, but Stroll and Leclerc still going side by side. Stroll pushing Leclerc as wide as he can, but I think that has compromised the Racing Point man as we go on to the straight now. We've got the DRS, and we will be able to make a move if we can dive down the inside, but no, Stroll has gone to the inside to try for a move once again on Leclerc. Fair play to the Racing Point man. He is not giving up on this P6, despite it being against Charles Leclerc. But Leclerc is going to have the inside into turn 6, and he just about gets it. So it's taken till lap 13 in this Grand Prix for Leclerc to slice through the midfield. And finally, we have the top 6 occupied by all Ferrari, Red Bull and Mercedes drivers. But I wouldn't discount it changing later on in the Grand Prix. I'm pretty quietly confident in our own pace, but the Racing Point cars are very much scaring me. They are very quick around this Red Bull ring. Obviously, the Mercedes power unit they've got in the back of the car very much helps. But despite that, we've got the move done on Lance Stroll. A lovely switchback move. We tried it on Sergio Perez a couple of laps ago, but this time it worked on lap 14 of the Grand Prix. But we've still got the 2 Racing Point cars behind us at this stage. So it's going to be difficult to stay ahead of them, of course, like I say, with that Mercedes power unit. But for the meantime, it's looking just about okay. Now, skipping ahead a couple of laps, you can see that we're still in P7. It's Carlos Sainz, who is a long way behind at the moment. The 2 Racing Point cars have already come in to the pit lane, and lap 16 is our chosen lap of pitting. The final 20 laps are going to be done on the soft tyres, so just the one stopper this afternoon, and to be honest, it's looking pretty comfortable. Not a great in-lap though. The tyres just starting to go off the cliff as we approach the pit lane. You can see we almost struggled to get into the pit lane itself. The car very much understeering. But despite that, it looks as if we should be able to get ahead of the Racing Point cars if we just had a just about good enough in-lap. And there you can see is one of the Racing Points. Is it Stroll? Is it Perez? I think it's Sergio Perez. But we've got Romain Grosjean, who has got ahead of us. He is yet to pit in the Grand Prix. The same with Alexander Albon, who is sat alongside Sergio Perez. And we're now going to try and go down the inside of Romain Grosjean. We don't want to be negotiating traffic if we want to challenge the likes of Charles Leclerc up ahead. But it looks as if we're just going to have to persevere for the meantime. Perez is right there and waiting to pounce. Is he going to go around the outside of us into turn 4? We are side by side once again with the Mexican driver. Some brilliant battles with him so far in this race. And is he going to do like he did a few laps ago and go down our inside? It looks as if he is. We are side by side through turn 6. But he has prevailed once again. This middle sector, that Racing Point car just seems far too racy for us. And Sergio Perez is ahead of us at this moment in time. Alexander Albon also trying to go for a move. He goes down the inside, or at least tries to. But it looks as if he has been a little bit over-ambitious there. And he couldn't quite get the move done. He is still ahead of Lance Stroll, though, as we start lap 18 of this Grand Prix. Our teammate is coming to the pits. We're a long way ahead of him. We are very much looking ahead of Daniel Ricciardo in this race and in this season as a whole. But we're not going to be concentrating on that. We're going to be concentrating on the battle between ourselves, Perez and Grosjean, because Perez and Grosjean going side by side into turn 3. How many times have we said side by side into turn 3 in this race? It is far too many, but we're just about approaching the halfway stage in the Grand Prix, and we're trying to go 3 wide into turn 4. Are we going to be able to do it? Just about. We're pushed onto the curb. We can't get ahead of Grosjean, but we do get ahead of Sergio Perez once more, exchanging positions with the Mexican driver. And boy, oh boy, I'm going to need a big lie down after I finish commentating this race. We're only at half race distance, would you believe it? And we're still stuck behind Romain Grosjean in that Rich Energy sponsored Haas car. As I mentioned a couple of laps ago, he is still yet to pit in this Grand Prix, so not to worry too much. But we would like to get ahead of him and chase after a few more cars. We're trying to get the DRS on him now, and it looks as if we should be able to go down the inside, despite us having the inferior power unit. We go down the inside of Romain Grosjean to take P10 in this Grand Prix. Should be a net P7. There's a few more cars up ahead that haven't pitted yet, including Antonio Giovinazzi, who's just ahead of us in P9. Meanwhile, this battle between ourselves, Grosjean and Perez has not relented as of yet. Grosjean still looking racy, and we're in lean mix, just trying to get by, but it's looking like it could be a mistake. We've got the overtake ERS active, but the lean mix has very much not helped us there whatsoever. And you can see the wheel spin on exit means that Grosjean has gone back down our inside. So that was a big mistake. We thought we could get by on lean mix, try and save a little bit of fuel, but it hasn't happened. And we're in standard mix once again now because we really, really need to overtake Grosjean. He is looking ropey in this final sector. He's got no grip on his Haas car whatsoever, but we dive down the inside of him into turn 9, and we are up again into P10. We're not going to make the mistake of going into lean mix now. We're going to, well, we are actually, but we are sufficiently ahead of Grosjean, nearly a second, and we did manage to stay ahead of him. And we set our sights on Antonio Giovinazzi, the final driver that hasn't pitted in this Grand Prix. So we're on lap 21, got 15 laps to go, and this would be the move that should seal P7 in this Grand Prix for ourselves. Very, very easy down the inside of the Alfa Romeo Sauber driver in his rookie season in F1. We are up into P7, and the next man ahead of us on track is Charles Leclerc. Now, he was only a couple of seconds ahead of us just before the pit stops. Now that gap is 10.5 seconds. That is how much time we wasted behind the likes of Giovinazzi, Perez, Grosjean. It's really hindered us. It has really, really hindered us. But as you can see, lap 22, 1 lap further in the Grand Prix, the safety car has been deployed. It is one of the Williams cars. I think it is Robert Kubica. There you can see on screen is out of the Grand Prix. Terrible luck for him in what was looking like a pretty decent race for the pole. But that, once again, has just spiced things up in this Grand Prix. As if we hadn't had enough action already. We now get a chance to take a little bit of a breather and look to see what the order is in this Grand Prix. So leading, we've got Lewis Hamilton. He was leading in Canada under the safety car, and then it all went wrong. Is it going to happen again today, or will he take the victory ahead of his teammate currently with Sebastian Vettel sat in P3 ahead of that man Max Verstappen in 4th, with Pierre Gasly, who sat on pole position, in P5. Then we've got P6, Charles Leclerc, of course the man ahead of us, and then ourselves in P7, sitting alright at the moment, and we will have a chance to capitalise on the cars ahead. Then we've got Sergio Perez sat in P8 for Racing Point, ahead of his teammate Lance Stroll in 9th position. And then it is that man, Carlos Sainz in the McLaren, rounding out the points paying positions in P10. So we have got a pretty tasty final 11 laps of this Grand Prix. We are ready for the safety car to come in now on lap 25, an 11 lap sprint sort of to the end. It's pretty much everything reset. We've got the fastest 6 cars at the front of the grid, and we will do our utmost to try and chase after them. We've tried to keep the tyres as warm as possible under the safety car. We've made that mistake of them being too cold in previous races, and now we are under green flag conditions. We are resuming racing here at the Austrian Grand Prix, but it's been a poor restart from ourselves. We get a bad exit off turn 10, and it looks as if now going round the outside into turn 1 is going to be Sergio Perez. We have battled with him enough in this Grand Prix, and I don't really want to do battle with him anymore, as we just about keep ahead of him. But of course he will have the slipstream on the run up the hill into turn 10. Is he going to be able to make a move, or is his teammate going to go for it? We're almost 3 wide going into turn 3. Perez committed to the inside, but going over the curb, which will hinder his exit, and we just about stay ahead for the meantime. But we've already started to lose contact with Charles Leclerc up ahead, and well, we don't want to really be doing any battling behind if we want any sort of chance of getting more points in this Grand Prix. But there you can see very much a pack starting to develop, the top 6 and then everybody else, sort of what you expect. But something's telling me that the battle between myself and Perez might not be over for the rest of this Grand Prix. So 10 laps to go now as we start to conclude lap 26 of this Grand Prix. We'll take a look and see what the gap is between ourselves and Leclerc. Probably a second and a half, I'd say, because that final sector of ours is looking at pretty tasty, I do have to say. And yes, it's 1.2 seconds, and we've actually just about managed to get out of DRS range of Sergio Perez. And now we skip onto lap 30 of the Grand Prix, and somehow we managed to shake off Sergio Perez, and we are now stuck with the battle between the 2 Red Bulls and Charles Leclerc. We're just going to sit in the back seat at the moment and see what unfolds up ahead. So Gasly, who started on pole position, has now been overtaken by his teammate and Charles Leclerc, and is down in P6, and it could be P7, because we went for a cheeky little dive down the inside of turn 3, and we are now running side by side with the pole sitter Pierre Gasly on the run down to turn 4. He's just about got enough power though in that Honda power unit to stay ahead of us for the meantime. But this is encouraging, because it looks as if we actually have the pace to keep up with the Red Bulls and one of the Ferraris in this Grand Prix. The safety car came in, what was it, 5 laps ago now, and we are still just about clinging on to the tails of these guys. So hopefully they continue to battle and we can sort of pick up the pieces. But the Red Bull in that middle sector, unsurprisingly, looking pretty quick. Now, we've seen previously in the race, that middle sector, we've been closing up to the likes of Perez, Stroll, Sainz, but we couldn't do it to those Red Bull drivers. But in a straight line, it's a different story. The Red Bull's very vulnerable in a straight line, and Leclerc has pounced on lap 31 on Max Verstappen, although Verstappen is going to stay in the slipstream and maybe try for a move, although he's got to be conscious of his teammate behind as well. And this run up to turn 3 all race has been pretty mental, and it hasn't relented on lap 31. Now we are still going to give it a go and try and overtake Pierre Gasly, but no, we just don't seem to be able to do it. Of course, we are in lean mix. Despite having a safety car, you'd think that we'd be able to save enough fuel, but no. How wrong I was, and fortunately, we have enough ERS, so as soon as we see an opportunity arise, we'll try and burn off that ERS that we've got to deploy for the final 5 laps of this Grand Prix. We're now going to skip all the way on to lap 34, the end of lap 34, so just over 2 laps left in this Austrian Grand Prix, as Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc have actually created a bit of a gap to myself and Pierre Gasly. But myself and Gasly, well, we can have our own battle for the final 2 laps of the race. Gasly looking very, very, well, tail happy, I think, on the exit of turn 1. As we go through the left kink of turn 2, we've overtaken him on the DRS using the high ERS modes, and we're going to go as wide as possible and try and get a good exit, and we have managed to do it, because despite not having DRS, it looks as if we're actually pulling away from Gasly here on the penultimate lap of the Grand Prix. We are genuinely battling on raw pace with the Red Bull of Pierre Gasly. And the man that sat on pole position on lap 1 is now in P7. He's trying to give it a go in this middle sector. As I've mentioned previously, the Red Bull looking very, very good in this middle sector. But at the moment, it looks as if we are just about holding our own in P6. And I didn't think when we were sat in P11 in the early stages of this Grand Prix that we'd be battling with the Red Bulls at the sharp end for some big points. Now, Verstappen, I think, is just going to be too far ahead of us for any sort of overtaking opportunity on the final lap of this Grand Prix. But him and Leclerc will very much give it a go by the looks of it. Is Pierre Gasly, though, going to have enough to try and at least try and overtake us on this final lap? Leclerc and Verstappen still going at it. Who is going to prevail in that battle? I am not too sure, but Gasly is going to try and go for a move. But once again, we take that wide line, which should give us a good exit, and indeed it does. That should be just about enough for us to stay ahead of the Red Bull Honda at Red Bull's home race. And indeed we do. A little bit of a lock-up for ourselves into Turn 4, but it shouldn't matter too much. We are still ahead of Gasly, with Verstappen prevailing in the battle between himself and Leclerc. So it's not all bad for the Red Bull drivers. But there's been one team that's been in a league of their own this afternoon, and that is the Silver Arrows. The two Mercedes men follow each other home through the final corner. It's going to be victory for Lewis Hamilton here in Austria. 25 points go to him, 18 to his teammate, and the maximum 43 points for Mercedes. In P3 is that man, Sebastian Vettel, who's quietly gone about his business. And as we go through the final corner, it's going to be Verstappen in 4th, Leclerc in 5th, and ourselves with a good points haul, 8 points in 6th position, beating Pierre Gasly, a man that we are still ahead of in the Drivers' Championship. What a race that was, and what a win for Lewis Hamilton. That will do his title challenge a world of good, with Mercedes looking pretty perilous here today, it has to be said. They didn't take pole, but they were 1-2 after lap 1 of the Grand Prix. Very well deserved for Lewis Hamilton, and decent race from Bottas as well, following him home after that safety car restart. But yeah, never really in doubt, as I said, for the Mercedes men. Pretty much in a league of their own, so it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of the season develops in terms of whether Ferrari will bring upgrades, whether Red Bull will be able to challenge. But today, of course, it was all about Mercedes. The top 6 in that Grand Prix all gained positions compared to their starting place. Pierre Gasly, though, he took a big L. He was down in P7 with Perez and Stroll in the racing points. They got points, but they just didn't really seem strong in that second half of the race, with Carlos Sainz getting points. Our teammate, Daniel Ricciardo, what happened? We've clearly got the 4th best car on the grid, yet Ricciardo couldn't even get points in this Grand Prix. Giovinazzi, fair play to him, good race in P12, just ahead of his teammate Kimi Raikkonen with just the 1 DNF. And that means that we stay in P6 in this championship. We're still ahead of Pierre Gasly, who moves ahead of Magnussen into 7th place. But what a Grand Prix that was, guys. What a Grand Prix it was. Ricciardo, our teammate, in P12. Unfortunately, I forgot to show the constructors' standings, so we'll have to wait till next time to see what happened there. But thank you guys for tuning in to this Austrian Grand Prix. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I most certainly did. Comment your thoughts down below. And hopefully you guys are looking forward to the British Grand Prix, which should be uploaded on Sunday. Join me then for some more action. But until then, do take care, guys. Bye-bye.